Hey, family. Hello, family. So, we are actually doing a surprise live today about a topic that I wanted to talk to you about. So, before we get started, um, let me just type in the chat and send a chat. And if you have questions of me, you can always stop me and I'll answer any questions. It doesn't have to necessarily be about this topic. So, how are you today? Well, I'm actually doing pretty good today. So I actually had something on my mind and I wanted to come in here and talk about it. So, if you saw, we're going to talk about toxic people today. So, if you were able to see the topic, that's what we're discussing today. So, welcome to another live. So, I think, this may be my third or fourth live today. I'm not, or not today, but maybe third or fourth overall. So today we're going to talk about, I hope you're all having a beautiful day and making sure that you're taking care of yourself, making sure that you're giving yourself permission to do what you need to do for yourself today and every day. And I'm just going to start off by asking you a couple questions, or rather, I want you to think about what I'm about to ask. So, have you ever found yourself feeling constantly anxious or stressed around a particular person, maybe a group of people? Maybe you've noticed that you're always walking on some sort of eggshells, never knowing what the right thing to say or the wrong thing to say, maybe around, these particular person or a group of people. Or perhaps you've caught yourself feeling like, when you're around people, maybe you have this feeling that you're not good enough, no matter how hard you try or how much you accomplish. These are all classical signs of toxic relationships. And if you're experiencing any of these feelings, it is time for you to take a step back and reevaluate this relationship, because we're going to discuss today ways in which you can cut toxic people from your life. But there are those times when that is actually not possible. So I'm actually going to give you some tips for that as well. So you're going to want to stick around for that. You may have a question of, well, why should you even bother cutting out toxic people or trying to manage or navigate in situations where you can't? Well, it all comes down to really your own peace, your own mental health, because toxic relationships drain your energy and they can leave you feeling less than who you are. So, I think we've all been there at some point or another where we're stuck in a relationship or we're surrounded by people who just seem to be draining the life out of us. And yet, for some reason, hi, how are you today? I left you and I'll get right back to someone popped in. Some that I always try to catch her live. So I'm so happy to see you here actually. Welcome to the live. We're talking about toxic people today, but I left you an email, so I hope that you got it. If you did, respond to it because it's oh, good, good, good. Because I was trying to set up a time because I had you on as one of my next channels. I think we talked about it where we could do the interview and stuff. But I'm so happy to see you here. But we're talking about toxic people today, toxic relationships. So we're going to discuss. Oh, okay. I'll check. We're going to discuss ways in which we can cut toxic people from our life. But I told you that there are times when that's actually not possible. And I'm actually going to give you some tips and ways in which to deal with that when it's not possible. So you're going to want to stick around for that. You may have the question of, why should you even bother cutting out toxic people? Because it really comes down to your own peace, your own happiness, your own mental health. Because toxic relationships can drain energy, they can leave us feeling less than we are. So, I think most of us at some point or another have been stuck in a relationship or surrounded by people who just seem to be draining really the life out of us. And yet for some reason we will struggle to let them go. Maybe it's because we think we can fix them. That's what happens a lot of times. We think we can fix them, or maybe it's because we're afraid of being alone. But the truth is, removing toxic people from your life can actually be one of the most transformative things that you will ever do, because it absolutely will change your energy. Now, I will tell you that it's not always obvious, because toxic relationships can be incredibly subtle. It can be hard for you to recognize. And so it would be easier for you to brush off signs that someone is doing these things as more of like an annoyance or just sort of a minor frustration. But the truth is, these relationships are taking a really huge toll on your overall emotional well being. So you have to ask yourself, what is the real impact then of when we're keeping this type of negativity around in our life? So let's find out. Let's start by really identifying what makes a toxic person toxic. Because, like I said, sometimes it's really subtle. Sometimes you might not see it in your life. So, I'm going to talk to you about more than just this idea of a person being consistently negative, or manipulation, or something, subtle undermining your self-esteem. Because when we're recognizing these traits, we have to be able to recognize them first, right? That's the first step in making positive changes. And I actually have 10 for you today. That's not to say that this is a complete list of all of the toxic traits that a person can show. Absolutely not. These are just 10 that are more of the obvious and yet subtle at the same time traits. And it's a pretty good one. So I'm going to talk to you about it today. So, one of the things that you can do to recognize how someone may be toxic in your life is to look at this idea of constant negativity. So that doesn't mean maybe someone's having a bad day and they happen to be a bit negative or in a certain mood on that day. I'm talking about a constant negative state. So that's, you're having regular exposure to this person and they have a negative attitude, they're always pessimistic. So you feel like your energy's been drained after you've spent time with them. So now it's affecting your mood and your outlook. I guess I would look at this like the glass half empty versus the glass half full, right? So another thing is manipulation. So you may recognize this in a person because they may be using tactics to control or influence you, people, all the people around them, because they want you to do what they want you to do and not what you want to do. And so they're disregarding your own well being. So essentially, disregarding the well being of the other person that they're doing it with. They could also be undermining your self-esteem, and this is a real big one, and I think this is one of the harder ones for people to really see, because a lot of people will put it under constructive criticism. And constructive criticism is one thing. Undermining your self-esteem is another, and let's look at those differences. When someone's coming in and they have these frequent criticisms or remarks that really are just lowering your confidence and you're not feeling a lot of self-worth after your interaction with them, sometimes it'll be subtly. like I said, and you want to know how? Backhanded comments, right? Complaints. You're never quite doing something completely right, right? Or they're going to be comparing you to someone else. Well, you should do it like this person, right? And I'm sure we've all ran across people like that in our lives before, unfortunately. That's your third out of your 10 ways in which you can recognize it. Your fourth way to recognize it is it's called lack of support. So often what happens is these type of people in your life will fail to provide genuine encouragement, right? Or they'll downplay your achievements. Some people call them haters. You can call them what you want. But these toxic people they don't provide that genuine encouragement. They downplay all of the successes or achievements you have in your life. So it leaves you feeling not supported and kind of confused, right? Because you're probably extremely happy for all their successes. So that's another way in which you can recognize it. The fifth way is just dishonesty. So, this person, they're always lying to you about one thing or another, or they're withholding information. And it's really creating a foundation of mistrust. So, you're wondering, can you actually trust what this person is saying to you? And that I think that's more noticeable because when people have that, because we have to know when they're not being honest. Or here's another thing, people that are always jealous or envious of you. So, what does that look like? So, they may express resentment towards your successes or your happiness. So that can kind of get a little bit muddled with a person who's not providing support. But I think you can kind of see there is somewhat of a difference there, but it does have that same feel because what's happening is they're feeling threatened by the fact that you're being successful. So that's one thing to look out for as well. Another thing is, do you ever have those people around you that always have some sort of drama, something going on? That is the seventh sign I'm talking to you about, nonstop drama. They have constant presence of chaos or conflict in their interactions that keeps you emotionally off balance. So they're always coming to you. They got one problem after the next. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be supportive as a friend. I'm talking about this person that has so much drama all the time and they're bringing that energy to you. And now you're kind of taking it on, right? Another sign is crossing boundaries. So, first, you have to set your boundaries, and we're going to get into how you can do that here in a minute. But crossing boundaries. So, they're disrespecting your limits that you've placed. They're not acknowledging your personal space because we all have a certain personal space that we've acknowledged and we've sort of set up these boundaries in. And they're always jumping over the line on that. And so it makes you feel exhausted, right? And also your space is constantly being invaded. So they don't respect your personal space. Gaslighting is another. I think this is like gaslighting has become kind of a buzzword if you speak, if I'll just say a buzzword. But what is gaslighting? That's when a person is making you question your reality or question your sanity, really. And they're using it as a way to gain the upper hand in the relationship. So for example, maybe they're constantly disrespecting you, constantly interrupting you, constantly doing something like that. And then they're telling you that they're not doing that or that you're just imagining it. This is gaslighting. That's just one example. And lastly, I will tell you victim mentality. What does that mean, victim mentality? Well, this is when this individual is persistently, constantly, all the time seeing themselves as a victim, right? So why is that a sign of a toxic person? Well, because they're always avoiding responsibility for any action. So if they're doing something to you, let's say they've been disrespectful or they've said something to you that has hurt you in some way or the other. I'm just going to use sort of emotional here as an example. They're basically manipulating you through guilt when they're always going to use some excuse as to why they've done it, right? Because they're a victim. They're a victim of some sort. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you, um, uh, do you have someone in your life, and you can think about this, you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. Do you have someone in your life right now that is doing any one of these on a regular basis? If you do, tell me about it. And you're probably going to want to, if you do have a person like that, you're going to want to set up boundaries if you haven't already done it. Yes, they are. They are so manipulative. You know that I'm glad you said that because I know when we talk about victim mentality and it gets into this idea of manipulation, well, I think it just that manipulation thread runs through all of it. They're very manipulative. That's why they can stay in your life so much and close to your energy. That's why setting up those boundaries are so important because it's not really just an option, it's necessary to set up those boundaries. And I've done a couple videos on this. I perhaps will do some more in the future. Um, Setting up boundaries can be, it sounds simple, but a lot of people find it really hard to do because they don't like this idea of saying no, they don't want to hurt someone. But we go back to the manipulation factor. That's how they're manipulating you. So you have to be really careful because whether it's saying no or deciding not to engage in these draining conversations with people like that, boundaries are about you. They're about helping your mental health, your space, and protecting your energy. So it's so important to do that because whether we're stuck in a toxic relationship or not, and let's just say that you are, it's easy to lose sight of our own goals and desires because we start to feel like we're just trying to survive from day to day to the next day rather than like living the life that we are truly meant to live. And it's no wonder because if you've got toxic people in your life and this is happening on a day to day basis, they're just sucking the energy, the life energy right on out of you. Okay. And it's just leaving you feeling drained, depleted, and sometimes confused as to what just happened when you had an interaction with them. Because sometimes you're going to take that on like it was your fault, which gets back to that manipulative factor, right? But I will tell you that it doesn't have to be this way. It really doesn't. Imagine waking up every morning feeling empowered, feeling like you're living the life that you're meant to live. That's what's possible when you cut out the toxic people and you surround yourself with those people who uplift and support you. It's about building a supportive community around you in I believe in community 1,000%. It takes a village, in my opinion, but that's what you want around you is very supportive, uplifting people. And I know for some people it absolutely will not be easy. Trust me. I've been there, but once you start to recognize the signs of toxicity and you begin to take steps to remove those people from your space, you'll be amazed at how much lighter you absolutely feel. It's like a weight has just been lifted off your shoulders and suddenly you feel like you can breathe again because you're not feeling that responsibility towards them. They're not able to manipulate you in your life, and you begin to grab that power back, right? And for me, I can tell you it really was a gradual process when I began this process of removing certain people from my space because I noticed certain people in my life that were causing me more stress than anything else. And I also knew that I had to make a change. And I also knew it wasn't easy because a lot of these people we love, a lot of these people we care for, a lot of them are family, some of them may be our partners. Um, Etc. So, you know, It definitely isn't easy. And there were definitely times when I doubted myself, like, am I just making this up? You will go through those, but the more that you begin to distance yourself from these toxic relationships, the clearer your mind will become. And you will start to see that not only what kind of energy they were bringing, but you'll start to see yourself in a different space. You'll begin to understand that you are worthy of having this, really clear space with good energy. You're worth love and respect, and knowing that you don't have to settle for anything less than that. And that will be incredibly liberating to you. But I will say this. That said, it's not just about distancing yourself, okay? There are practical steps that you'll need to take in order to cut ties, and I think this will be very beneficial for all of us, but especially for those of you who might find it difficult to cut ties immediately. Okay, that can be incredibly stressful for people and incredibly difficult. And for some people, you might have to make plans to actually remove people from your life. And that's totally different video. But I think what you can do, what I'm about to tell you, these tips will help you out. So, what do you do then to start removing toxic people from your life? Well, we learned that first of all, you need to recognize what the signs of toxicity are. You need to really take a look at your life, and only you know this. Sit down. Do certain people make you feel bad about yourself? Or do they constantly criticize you? Do you feel anxious or stressed around them? And once you really start to see those signs, go back, rewind this. If you're watching this later, take a look at some of those top 10 signs, but know that that's not an exhaustive list. There are other things, but that'll get you started. Once you start to see those signs in someone, it's time for you to take action. Okay. So you need to start by setting your boundaries. You need to decide what they are, whatever your boundaries are. You need to start saying no. I could probably say that. I don't, about, we all need to learn how to do that a little bit more. Prioritize your own needs and desires, and don't be afraid to walk away if necessary. So remember, you deserve to be treated with love and respect, and it's okay to demand that from other people in your life. It's not about being rude, it's not about being mean, it's just about self respect. That said, I want to give you some practical steps to consider when you've decided and you've went through this list and you're recognizing that there's some toxic people in your life, and you've decided that maybe you need to kind of distance or remove yourself from that. I'm going to give you some practical steps to be able to do that. Because for some people, they can't just immediately do that. So let's talk about some steps. The first thing I've already went over with you is to identify it. You first have to clearly define which relationships in your life are harmful to your emotional health, and then you have to recognize how they're affecting your life. Okay. And then, of course, I talked about you setting boundaries. You have to set firm boundaries, communicate your limits clearly and firmly. Let that person know, that toxic person, what is acceptable to you, and then stick to it. Don't let them keep being a line crosser. Habitual line crosser. Don't let them do that, right? Because if they continue to cross that line, you need to reinforce your decision, and then you keep moving away. Okay, that's what you one of the two of the things so far. And then you need to reduce contact gradually, because that may be better for you, a gradual sort of contact. So if an immediate cutoff is too drastic or it's not feasible to you, what you're going to want to do is gradually reduce the time you spend with this person. So, what does that look like? Well, it just means limit meetings, interactions until you can sever ties completely. Okay. You're going to want to use direct communication as well. So when you are ready to end your relationship, don't just ghost them, because now you've left an open line of energy. You haven't given closure. I know a lot of people do that. They just stop contacting or ghosting. I think in order not only to respect, because you still want to respect, live your life in a respectful way, respecting yourself is also letting someone else know, right? So you're not just leaving some sort of open energy loop to that person. So you're going to want to be direct with them. When you're ready to end that relationship, communicate your intentions clearly, directly. Explain to them why you need to distance yourself and be straightforward with your needs, but do not get into any type of argument with them or any type of that. You're just explaining, right? That's it. You're going to seek support because, you might want to discuss your decision with someone who's not toxic, one of your trusted friends, or maybe a family member who, can provide you with support and guidance during this process, because some of this is going to be difficult. A lot of these people in our lives are people that we love. It's not easy to walk away from that. So you definitely going to want to always seek support if you can, and if that is actually what you need to do for you. And you're going to, by doing that, you're going to be focusing on your needs, right? So you're going to be reinforcing your own personal growth, because you're going to be engaging more in activities now that are going to improve your own well-being. And you're going to be connecting with positive influences, because when you start to move out those negative influences and that negative energy that's been in your space, you can't help but invite positive energy. That's you can't help. So you're going to start, inviting that positive energy. You're going to start seeing yourself grow in ways, that are would be not possible had you let those people stay in your space. And you definitely the last well, I got a couple more things. You're definitely going to want to block or limit digital contact. What do I mean by that? Well, everything's online right now. Everything, you can pick up your phone, you can text someone. Most people constantly have that with you. You're checking your email, especially for those of us who are creators, and most, our business is online. A lot of people we interact with is online, but it's going to be necessary for you to manage that, your online interactions. You're going to want to block or unfollow if you're following that person on social media. You're going to want to filter them out as much as possible in all spaces. So don't forget about that space, because online can be very toxic. And to be honest with you, mm, I think it was the last live I did. I might have talked about that. Wow. I can't remember if it was the video or the live I did, but check out those videos, because I did talk about this online toxicity and also how it can impact you. So you definitely want to do that, and you want to stay firm in your decision, because once you've made your decision to cut ties, be firm in that. Don't allow them to manipulate, because they're master manipulators back into your life. Toxic individuals will try to regain control. They're going to want to re enter your life, but you're going to want to say, no, I've made my decision, right? And if it's necessary for you, I always say, do not be afraid to consult not only your family and friends, but a therapist, because some toxic relationships have and will leave deep emotional scars. This is not a weakness. This is actually a strength. Should you choose, that's what you need to do, okay? Because that can only assist you in the healing that needs to take place. And you definitely want to reinforce positive relationships in your life. Strengthen those bonds with supportive and positive people. Most likely, what has happened, most of us have those people in our lives, but if we also have toxic people, they've probably blocked a lot of those interactions that you may have with a positive person. So once they're removed, you're probably going to be able to see them better. Okay. So you're definitely going to want to reinforce those bonds, and it can help fill in any void you may be feeling. And it definitely will support your recovery. Now, I'm going to tell you that taking these steps can help you remove toxic influences from your life. So it's going to improve your overall mental well being, improve your overall well being. But I told you at the beginning of this, one of the things I've noticed is when people talk about removing toxic relationships, what they don't discuss is what if you cannot completely remove a toxic person from your life? Well, when would that happen? Well, maybe you can't quit a job, and maybe at your workplace, you actually have someone you have to interact with that may be toxic, and there's lots of other examples that we could come up with, but I think I'm just going to for the purpose of this, I think I'm just going to use work, okay? So, here we go. One of the things that you can do at work, here's some strategies that you can do. You're going to want to set clear boundaries. So you still are going to want to gain control of this. So you're going to set this boundary with its colleague and firmly establish what behaviors you will and will not tolerate. And you're going to be consistent in enforcing these boundaries. And you're going to communicate them clearly to that toxic person if possible. Okay. And then you're going to want to limit as much as possible. And it might be hard to do because you may end up in meetings or working with this person, but you're going to try to limit your interaction to as much as possible. Definitely only professional necessity, right? In the workplace. Keep your conversations brief and only focused on work related topics. Never deviate from that. Okay. You also, and this is sad, but it's unfortunately true because this happens a lot, but you're definitely going to want to document your interactions with this person. So you're going to want to keep a record because usually if someone's toxic at work, they're probably going to try to cause a lot of problems for you. So just make sure that you're documenting your interactions, especially if this person is inappropriate or harassing you in any way. It's just for your own benefit, right? Because hopefully it won't escalate, but sometimes unfortunately it does. So you're definitely going to want to do that and develop some coping strategies. So learn and practice stress management techniques. I have a lot of videos on that. One thing I'll say in the moment is deep breathing exercises really help. Meditation can help. Take short breaks if you're allowed to. I don't know what your work environment looks like, but if you can take short breaks, that would be great. Always trying to maintain your composure. These things will help you with your emotional interactions and the emotional impact. And, seek support, of course, talk to your human resources, talk to your supervisors, talk to your mentor about your situation. They may be able to help you. Maybe they can put you in a different department. There's always that as well. But let's just be real. Some people cannot quit their job. So we have to be able to manage this. We have to focus on our professionalism, maintain that high level of professionalism. We have to be able to engage in the best positive way that we can, right? We also have to be able to seek help when we need it. And basically make sure that you're well versed and you understand the company policies and familiarize yourself with these. And these strategies can really help you manage those interactions because we don't want to be so blinded by this idea that some of us, we can just, you know, go on and remove everybody because unfortunately some of us have to stay in these spaces until they can move on to a better space. So what do you do in that moment? But these strategies can really help you manage your interactions with a toxic person, and when avoidance isn't possible, they can help you to preserve some of your hopefully all of your well-being and your professional satisfaction, because we all deserve to be in a relationship that brings out our best, not like hold us back. And I also want to tell you to remember that cutting toxic people out really isn't just about getting rid of that bad person, okay? You know what? The most important thing, it's about giving yourself the space to flourish, to be who you are supposed to be, who you're meant to be. Because if you've struggled with toxic people in your life, I really want to hear from you on that. And I'm going to tell you that yes, I have struggled with that before. I've definitely struggled with that. And my experience was awful. It was in the workplace and it was in other spaces as well, but it was definitely difficult for me. So, and if you're new here, I don't know who's in here, but if you're new here, be sure to check out the video that I have on the power of self care because that's going to be important when you're removing toxic people. For more tips on prioritizing your own needs, your own desires, that's really important as well. Self care is so valuable, important when it comes to removing toxic people. I've noticed a lot, and I'm going to just ask this question of you. I've noticed a lot lately. There have been a lot of people discussing this idea of toxicity. And I actually recently actually, that's what it was. I did a live that was talking about relational aggression. I'm glad I brought that up. Do you know what relational aggression is? Did you get a chance to see my video on that? Any of you in here? Okay. Relational aggression, historically, this is what it looks like. If you haven't had a chance, please go look at that because I think it's so important, especially for women, men as well. But historically, women have been all the research around women and why we practice that. It's not the same thing as physical aggression. Relational aggression is more like rumors, gossiping, um, negative comments you may leave in someone's video or something like that, just talking about someone behind their back, and women use it as a way to actually bond with other women. So they'll be discussing, gossiping, or talking about negatively about someone. That is what is relational aggression. But I will tell you, because I'm not targeting women, I will tell you that historically women have been known to do this the most, but that gap is actually getting smaller between men and women because men do it too. Men do it too. You want to know why that gap is getting smaller? Social media. Social media use, men and women are here. And a lot of people feel safe where they can just make these negative comments about people and others because I'm sitting behind a computer and that person can't see me. So I'm going to say something to them, um, I will be more likely to do it because I have this anonymity that I'm safe and I never have to see them face to face. So that's why you're seeing a lot more of this. And why am I talking about this? Because it's definitely related to this idea of toxic people. And so it's unfortunate that it's happening more, but I believe that it's happening more and that gap is closing more. Not only from my own experiences, the research is clear on it. I don't know what your experiences are. Do you see more of that, more aggression, more of that relational aggression from being online more? And I know the one person on here is a creator. So do you see that more as the more that you interact with, people online? I do. I see it more. And not just like, I haven't gotten any really negative comments or anything like that. It's just from other creators. I've seen them speak about it. And actually what inspired me to make that other live video was because I saw a creator who doesn't even do videos like this, who doesn't talk about like personal well-being stories or how to be better or anything that. Actually, I think she does how to apply makeup, but she had some guests on and, the people in her comment section just went, they were just saying all these negative things about her guests, and her guests were women, they were older women, and people making those comments were women, and she was so upset by it. It just was very disheartening to her. So that's what really inspired me to make that video about relational aggression. So, but anyway, toxic people, I wanted to come on here and talk about it, and hopefully have, be on a live, because the one person that inspired me to do so many lives is on here. I'm super happy that you were able to come on here and catch me on one of my lives. So I think you caught me on another one before. Because I was not going, and you can ask me questions, if you want to ask me questions about, my how I ended up here, or any questions for me, you certainly can. You don't have to stay on the topic. But I was definitely not going to do any lives, because I was just going to do videos. And then I kept seeing, and Unlock Your Voice podcast, and I can see you on here. What is your actual name? Because when I when I sent you that email, I was like, wait, I don't think I know her name. Because I know you by the name of your channel. That's how. So I don't know how you would like me to address you, but let me know in the comments. But yeah, you definitely inspired me to do these lives. I see, and I haven't seen you as much on as I used to see you, and I don't think I'm catching you. I think our hours have just been a little off. But you definitely, and the people that come into your lives are actually now doing lives. I don't know if you've seen that, because I paid attention to who was coming in, and I subscribed to them. So now I see all of these different people doing these lives. So you've actually started a trend. I don't know if you know that. So which is pretty cool. So, but anyway, so yes, so you can ask me any questions that you want. I can go, and if you want me to go deeper in other videos, let me know. I'm just going to be sticking around here for a little bit longer, just to answer any questions that you may have of me. If you want me to go deeper on toxic people, I will answer this question. I decided to do this topic because recently, I was kind of, I had a situation again where within a group setting, it was toxic. And so it was really sad when these things happen. But then when you realize that it's toxic energy all over again, because that's one thing I will say, just because you do all these things, right, to remove toxic people, that doesn't mean that you're never going to interact or be in a situation where they come up again, these toxic people in your life. So you have to start this process all over again, right? By recognizing what their toxicity is. And even if you've done it 1 to 100 times, sometimes it's still going to be really hard for you to recognize who are these people, in your life. But usually it's that feeling. You just know when something's not right, right? You just know. You can feel it, when people are just bringing in some really negative energy to you. So, yes, so that is, an ongoing unfortunate process. Perhaps you can create a community, which is all about building community. And, the more positivity you put out, the more positive people you can bring in. But sometimes you're just going to be in a situation where you're introduced to it all over again. And so you're just reminded. And that was the situation that I was in recently. So, um, but if you're just getting here, welcome to my live. This is I tried to say what it was at the beginning of this. I think this is my third or fourth live that I've done. Maybe. I'm not sure. Something like that. And each time that you do a live, for anybody that's out there totally off the topic, trust me, you get more comfortable doing it each and every time. And I would suggest doing it at different hours. Like I was doing it later in the evening, and I think I was having a harder time catching certain people. And right now, I was able to catch a few people, and I was able to catch one of my favorite people on here. If you haven't seen this creator, her channel, she's on Unlock Your Voice podcast. Check her out. She does a lot of the same topics that I do. And I think we're going to be graced with her presence on an interview that I'm going to be doing soon. So I have a segment on my channel where I just basically interview other channels, see what their it's a conversation. It's all about their channel. So to see, what inspired them to start their channel, those types of things. So yeah, I'm gonna just hang out here a little bit longer in case anybody else pops in. Any questions you may have of me, don't hesitate to ask, and I'll answer them for you. Make sure I've went over everything for the looking at my notes, making sure I just got all my topic just talked about. So I will add, for those of you who are watching this, after the fact, or those of you that are in here, this is a real good conversation to have in the comments. Welcome to my live. If you've just gotten here, we've been talking about toxic people in your lives and how to recognize toxic people in your life. And I started this out by really asking a few questions, or rather, I wanted you to think about a few things. So I'm going to ask you if you've ever found yourself feeling constantly anxious or stressed out around a particular person, or it can be a group of people. It doesn't have to be just a person. Maybe you've noticed that you feel like you're walking on eggshells around that person. Maybe you never know, you feel like you're afraid to be around that person because you're not sure when their next outburst or criticism will come. Perhaps you've caught yourself feeling like, you know what, no matter what you do, it's never going to be good enough. I think that's kind of like a common thing that happens on recognizing, because a lot of people will continue to just try and try and try and keep doing whatever they can to, please the person. But no matter what you do, it may not be good enough for that person. And that's one way to recognize it. I think that's a huge one right there. But that's what we're talking about today, is we're talking about toxic people. Really having a conversation about that, and a necessary conversation about that, because it can be difficult for people to recognize it. It can be difficult for people to immediately walk away from it, but it also can be difficult that you can't completely walk away from it. And I did talk about that in when the situation arises that you can't necessarily cut that out. And that's usually work situations, sometime relationship situations, unfortunately, because there can be some financial reasons. Oh, and you may have to, you know, work through that situation. So you have to be able to recognize these situations. You have to be able to identify it. You have to be able to set your boundaries. You have to be able to directly communicate your boundaries. So you definitely want to go look at some of those videos I've made on that as well, and focus on your needs overall. So I think that we might have covered everything, unless I just kind of hung out towards the end to see if anyone had any questions for me. Um, I've never just hung out in the live like this. This is another thing I've never just done and just waited for people to show up or come and go as please. I have been watching other people's lives and I've noticed they were doing this. So I said, well, you know what? Maybe I'll just hang out for a little bit and wait for people to show up or not show up. And I've noticed people have done that. So I decided to do that as well. I've also noticed something really cool. Some people will just put up like streams of things in their live. They'll do a particular thing and then they'll stream something. And I think that's pretty cool as well. So everybody has their own unique way of doing things. So just going to hang out. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask me in the chat area and I will answer your questions. They don't have to be about this topic necessarily. They can be about whatever. If you want to ask any questions about me, I'll answer your questions. How are you today? How is everybody today? I can tell you how I'm doing today. So yesterday was kind of you ever have those days where you feel like maybe your energy is just not as 1,000% as other days? Well, that's the kind of day I had yesterday. So, but today I'm feeling better. Today I'm feeling absolutely better today. So, thank you for all of you that showed up. Thank you for if you're watching this after the fact, and go take a look at my other videos that will help you with setting boundaries, that will help you. This will help you recognize toxicity. There's one out there that talks about relational aggression that I did. That's a live that I did a few days ago. So go check that one out as well. You can zip right on through the sections in here where I'm not talking about directly the information, but I just wanted to hang out in case anybody wanted to show up, because sometimes it's about being uncomfortable or being comfortable with uncomfortable. I guess that's the same. Anyway, I think that's it for today. I look forward to seeing some of your comments. Thank you so much for all of you that showed up. Thank you for those that are coming to watch it after the effect. Until I see you in the next video, be sure to take care of your mind, your body, and your soul.